Welcome back, CSC230, to part 2 of our ex2 listen links using CSS. And we're going to put some CSS on the H1, the H2, our lists, even the list items, and we're even going to work with the footer a little bit and rearrange some things to get it to look a little bit nicer. And this is where we left off with our page. And one thing I want to point out, and this is just something I forgot as I was re-recording the video from the spring into the fall, is that the spacing we have here above and below paragraphs in here, although it looks nice because there's some space, that's default spacing. That's default for HTML. We didn't put that in there. And I really want to wipe it out so we could put our custom spacing in there. And I forgot to do that. So we're going to start off and do that now. And the way we do that is with a reset. So what I'm going to do is go back to my style sheet here. And I'm just going to type reset. Now, I'm just typing it just for a note for myself because we're going to make it a comment. And I just want to point out you can highlight this and do Command or Control / and it'll turn that into a comment. So I'm just indicating that what I'm putting next, the declaration block that I'm putting next, is for a reset. And the way we do this, we use an asterisk, which is like a wildcard. You may see that in database programs where it means everything or it means extra characters or something. It just means everything in this case. So I'm going to put an asterisk and then put opening and closing curly braces, and basically everything is going to get wiped out. And you might say, well, what about this stuff? Well, anything after that overrides that. This will be kind of the base. It'll wipe out the base stuff, and then anything you put back into it, any other padding, will naturally be put in there. That's how cascading works. But we're just going to take away the margin and padding for everything, so there's no defaults in there, including the lists. So I'm just going to put in margin, and I'll click on margin. And you could just put 0. You don't have to put pics. And then I'll also put padding, and I'll click on padding, and I'll put 0, and that's all you need. And I'll show you what's going to happen. If we go here and refresh, it's going to wipe out all of this. And there it is. And that's okay because we're going to put in our custom spacing for H1s, H2s, whatever we need. And also down here, possibly with our footer, also the lists that we have, you can see the bullets and the numbers are going outside of our padding. They're pushing outside. So we're going to push them in. I think it goes 6 pixels out. So we're going to move them in, put some additional padding on the lists themselves. Remember, this is a list and this is an H2. And I still have to find out why the H1 and H2s look the same. I had that same issue last semester. And the H1s and H2s, because we do have H1s and H2s. Oh, we didn't change anything yet. Let me see. We have an H1, and those are H2s. I don't know why they look the same. The H1s should be bigger than the H2s, but we're going to put in our own sizes for that anyway. But they should be bigger. The H1 should be bigger. I don't know what's wrong with the H1 if I did something wrong. I'm not sure why they're rendering the same size, but they shouldn't. So these should not be the same size. This should be bigger than these, but we'll fix that. We'll deal with it. We're going to put in our custom spacing. So the first thing we're going to do is put some spacing before the H2s and put some spacing before the H1s. Actually, we don't need a space before the H1 because we did that when we put padding around the section, and that's fine. But we do for these, for the H2s. So we could target the H2s and put some space before. So let's do that first. So I'll go back to my styles. And I like to stay in order here in terms of larger to smaller or bigger areas to smaller areas. So I'm going to go down here and put H2. Now we are going to put in H1, but for now I'll do H2. And we'll target the H2 element. And I'm just going to put padding top. Now you could use margin or padding because it doesn't really matter when you're working with text. So I'm just going to put padding and dash top. And there it is. I put T and then it's taking top. And I'll just put like 24 pics for now and see how that looks. So that will target both H2 elements and put padding above. And I'll go here and I'll refresh it. And that looks good. Now we still might want space above the unordered list and above the ordered list. And we also have to deal with the footer down here, which needs some space above as well. I think the space below is okay because it should be the same that's here, although we may want a little bit more in there unless we change the color of that. We may do something different with the footer, but for now, we need to put a little space above and below these, and then we'll deal with the lists and links, make that a little bit bigger, and I'll go in here, and you can target 2 elements. So I could target the OL and put comma and UL. So that means when you put a comma, it's targeting both. So we're going to target the ordered and unordered. and I'll put my brackets. And what are we going to do? We'll put a little bit of padding top above those. Not 24. We don't need as much as we have here, but just a little bit. So we get a little space in there. And then also we're going to deal with these, with the padding on the outside as well. The padding left, we'll move that over as well. So let's just deal with the padding top first. Padding top. And we'll try 6 picks and just see how that looks. And that looks a little better. And then we'll also do the padding on the left side. Now, we could put this together. You could put the different padding elements together, but just so it's easy to follow, I'm going to also do padding left. And I think if you move it over, let me just try. I'm just throwing numbers in here now. I forget the math involved with it, but let me try 20. I think I used 18 before. I forget where I came up with the 18, but I think 18 somehow, maybe 18 is what works out okay. Because I remember I used 18 on the previous video, and 18 lines it up right on there. So that's fine. I'll leave it at 18. That's where I want them lining up on there. I didn't mean to do so much trial and error, but I'll line them up on there. And also, I think my text is a little small. I think everything is a little small. So what I'll do is in body, because that'll kind of encompass everything, I'll make body a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to go in here and go up to body and just make font size. Let's try 110%, see how that looks. And I'll put my semicolon, and that should make everything about 10% bigger. And that's a little bit better. Things look a little bit more readable. We may not keep it in a serif font like it's using now, but that looks a little bit better. You know what? We have 6 point above these lists. We should probably put 6 point above this paragraph. Now, how do we target that paragraph if we want to do that? Now, I didn't do this on the other video, but if we wanted to put space above that particular paragraph, the same as we did for the list, actually, we could do this. We could just make sure that that's the only P, because that's a P. We might have a P down here in our footer, so we may not want to just put a general P. There's a way you can actually select the first P, but maybe what I'll do is I'll go in here, I'll put P, we'll get used to doing this, I'll put P class equals, and in quotes, I'll just put main. That'll be a main P. I'll put main P because it's the main paragraph for now. So I'm just putting a class name. And what that means is I could target that particular paragraph without accidentally targeting any other paragraphs that are on here. So I'm going to take that class name. Now, when we identify a class name in CSS, now here we put an attribute and we say class equals main P. But when we go into our styles, when we want to identify main P, we put a dot in front of it. So what I'll do here is I'll use main P. And notice I'm putting a dot because that's a class name. And I should probably cut it and put it in front of here. And actually, I should put it up here because it's before the H2. So I'll put it here, and then I'll put curly braces. There's main P. I'm getting the little wavy line because I don't have anything in there yet. And then I'll just copy this padding top 6 picks. I'll just copy that and put it there. That way we're going to have a padding top of that main P paragraph. Let's see if this works. There. Just put a little more space in there. And what we might do is make our H1 a little bit bigger. Now, we haven't done anything with our H1 yet, so let's go in and put that in front of the H2. And actually, it should be in front of the main P because the H1 is in front of the main P. So I'll try to keep it in the order that it goes in. And we're going to target H1. And maybe we'll give it a color and we'll make it bigger. And we'll try putting a % in there now and see how it works. But H1s are a little bit different, so we'll have to inspect our page and see what it's using right now. And actually, let's take a look at that. Let's go here, and I'm going to right click on here and say inspect. And close this down here. We'll talk more about this. And I'm just going to go right on this H1, and I'm going to look over here at the styles and see what it's saying. And it's saying 1.5 M, meaning it's 1.5 of its actual size. Is that the H1? See, it should be 2. That's why I think it's the same size as the, for some reason, it's the same size as H2. It's saying 1.5 M. It should actually say 2M. And 2M, see there, it's taking away the 2M for some reason. So, I don't know, there's some issue in there that it's not making twice the size. So this should be bigger. But again, you're wondering what I'm looking at. You don't know what 2M is. 2M is kind of like 200%. So let's just do that for now until we deal with M's, because we will deal with M's. We'll talk about that. But I just wanted to see what was going on. So you could sometimes inspect it. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to put font size. And I'm going to put 200% and see what that looks like for now. We'll just use a percent instead of M's. And let's see what this looks like. That's the way it should look. So for some reason it was making it the same size as that. And maybe we should use a color that kind of pulls something out of here. Kind of a deeper red or something might look nice. So let's go in here and pull out a nice deep red color. And how do we do that? Well, we don't use font color, we just use color. And I'll put a space and I'll just put red for now. And I'll put a semicolon. Now we don't want it just red, so I could click on it and I'll just make it a little deeper. I'll just make a little darker, more of a brick red in here. You could go make it a little more orangey red if you want. I'll do something like that and see how that looks. I'll just kind of hit enter and check it out. And that looks pretty good. It's pulling out kind of more of a burnt red from there, so that looks nice. Now I don't know if we want these in black because maybe they stand out too much. Maybe we could put them in like a dark green or something, the H2s. So let's try to do that. Let's go to the H2 and do the same thing. I'm going to go here and I'll put color and I'll put a colon and then I'll type green. I'll use a color name and then we'll kind of edit the green. Now we could look up color names and find different greens, or we could just use this. We could go in here and just kind of go in here. I'll make it a little grayer because we don't want it to really stand out. I'll just try something like that. I'll hit enter and then see what it looks like for now. That's not bad. I mean, it doesn't look good with these blue links, to be honest, but it does pull out some green from the trees, things like that, so that's not too bad. We'd want to change the link colors eventually, so I don't know if I did that in the first video, but these don't look good in blue. I think my other video at the winter had blue, so the blue links looked okay, but I don't like the blue links right here. But actually the green color doesn't look bad. Let me make it actually a little bit darker, maybe just slightly darker. I'll hit enter. And I don't know if that updated. Sometimes this takes, I don't know, it's been slow updating. I guess that looks okay. Or maybe it looked better the first way, but that looks okay other than the blue links, which we can fix. But I'm just worried about spacing right now. And actually, I don't like the spacing even of these lists. I find that they're a little too jumbled together. So we could spread them out a little bit. Now, what are these things in the list? They are list items. Now, they're all list items. We have list items for UL, and we have list items for these. So we could just target list items and put a little padding above each one. So I'll go back here, and I'll do it kind of after the lists here, and I'll just go into list items. And remember, these items are the same in every one, so I could just target every one as long as they're the only two lists I have. So any list item is going to do padding top. And again, we could try like line spacing or using line height or something, but I'm just going to put space above each one. And I'll put like maybe 4 picks for now and just see what that looks like with those line items. It should spread it out a little bit. So let's refresh. And that looks nice. That looks a little bit better. Now we have an issue here where the footer should have some more space above it. So let's deal with the footer right now. This doesn't look too bad. And again, in part 3, we're going to put a picture in here. And I guess we'll have to change the link colors because the blue links don't look good in here. But we definitely need some space in the footer, and we may have to deal with the footer. Sometimes the footer looks good if we put a kind of a background color on it. But if we do, we're going to have to wipe out the space in here a little bit. But we'll see what happens. Because remember, there's padding pushing up from the end of the section. We put the footer inside the section, so we may have to change that. And that's okay. This is meant to be flexible. We're meant to kind of learn things and work with things as we go. But for now, let's just put something above the footer. Let's just put some space above the footer. Maybe the same amount that we have here, like 24 picks. So let's just target the footer. And we'll put padding top. And I'll just put 24 picks for now. That may be too much, but at least we'll get some space in there. So we'll refresh this. And that looks a little better. And we may want to put this in like a sans serif font so it looks more generic. Let's do that. And I'll go here and put font family. Font family. Now the way font family works, I'm just going to put Verdania for now, and it's coming up with these sans serif fonts, and it's showing a list. And you might be asking, well, why is it showing a list? Well, it's showing first choice, second choice, third choice, and the last choice is sans serif, meaning general. Now Geneva is a Mac font, so I wouldn't use that, but I might use Tahoma, I might use Calibri, which is on most machines that use Office. So let's try that. Let's try using Tahoma, and we're not using any Google fonts or anything like that. I'll use Tahoma, and then I'll try Calibri, which is like an Office font, which most computers have that. I'll use Verdana or Verdania, and if we have any fonts with two names, we have to put quotes around them. And then the last one, I'll just put sans serif, meaning it's a sans serif font, and if it doesn't have any of these, it'll use whatever the browser default is. So let's see what this looks like. Now when you make it a sans serif, it's going to make it look bigger. So we're probably going to have to put font size and make it smaller. Maybe make it like 85% or something and see how that looks. Because when we make it, well, let me not do that first. So you just see what happens. Let me go here and refresh it. And you can see it looks bigger because sans serifs have bigger lowercase letters and they tend to look big. So we might want to go and just make a font size. I'll tab in here and I'll put font dash size, and I'll put 90% for now and see what that looks like, see if it makes it smaller. And that looks a little bit better. And what we're going to want to do is maybe put this in a block with color, which means we may have to move the footer outside of the section so that we can have all color wrapped around here. Because if this is inside of section, that means that that padding is kind of like a little buffer below it, and it's going to be an issue. So if we wanted like a background color here or something, maybe the same color as this going around here, we'd want to move that around. So I think what I'll do is I'll do that next time. Actually, the last thing I'll do here, and then we'll finish this up in part 3, I think I'll go back into my index here, and maybe I'll move the footer outside of section. I'll cut this, and then I'll put the footer outside. So the footer is going to be outside of that. So let's just see what that does. Okay, you see what that does. It puts it down there and it has no padding, so it's not taking any of the padding from the section. But that's okay. Then we'll put our own stuff for the footer. We could put a background color, we could put padding above, padding below, and we could put padding on each side. And we could give it a background color. So let's try to do that real quick. Before I end, let's see if I could do something there, or at least get it started. So I'm going to target footer. And I already have footer here with font family and all this stuff. Let's keep going with it, and let's put padding. Let's put padding on all sides. So we're just going to do padding, and that way we can do something called trouble. TRBL. Trouble. TRBL. What does that mean? And it means, I'll even put it here. I'll even put a comment in here. I'll put TRBL, and I'll highlight it, and I'll use command /, and maybe I'll tab it over. And trouble means top, right, bottom, left. So if we put 4 values in here, it's going to use the top, right, and bottom, left. That means the right and left, the second and fourth value, is going to be the same that we had in the section. So let's see what we had for the section. We had 36. So let's use 36. We could probably even maybe we don't need each side, but let's just see what happens here. We could do it on all 4 sides. So I'm going to put, for top, I'll put 0 for now. For right, I'll put 36 pixels because that's what section has. And then I'll put 0, and that's for bottom. And then for left, I'll put 36 pixels. And I'm just doing that just to see how much we need. I know it's not going to be 0. We're going to need more than 0, but let's see how that looks. So that's padding on all 4 sides, 0 on the top, 0 on the bottom. And if we're only going to do them that way, we could probably just do it like we did it up here, where you only had 2 values for section. So, you know, that was top and bottom. This is right and left. So we may be able to combine these into just 2. You can use 3 as well, but that confuses me. So I'd rather do 4. You know, even if they're the same. So let's check this out and see what this looks like. All right, that looks okay. We definitely need padding on the top and bottom. Maybe I'll just do 12, and I'll do 12, and I'll do background color. We'll put a background color in here. Background, and I'll put dash and colors coming up. Last semester they had redone the IDE a little bit, and some of this stuff wasn't coming up, but now it's coming up. Background color, and I'll just put, well, I won't put anything because I'm going to copy it from here. So I'm going to copy this color and then paste it down here. Now I got 2 semicolons, so let me get that out. And that'll be the same color that I'm using in the heading, which is consistent. And I also may want to change the color of the font. I'll put color and make it white. So I could just type white. Actually, I don't know why I have this here. Let me move that over. So that's what we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I should probably tab this over so you can kind of see what's going on there. Or on the screen, I'll put something on the screen. But if we're going to do it like this, we might as well just do 2 of them. You know, it doesn't even make sense. But I'll leave this like this for now. Let's refresh it. And that's kind of what I'm looking for down there. And maybe it could be a little darker, but I think that looks okay. It has a nice kind of look to it. I don't know if it looks great with the green. But it is pulling, you know, some of the color from the picture there. So that's not too bad. Might have to make the red a little darker, but definitely the blue links have to get changed. So I'll do that in the next video. But so far this looks nice. I mean, just doing some basic CSS layout here, targeting different elements on the page, you know, kind of reworking some things as we go here, like we had to do by putting the footer outside of the section. So as we need it, because if we wanted to do this and have its own background color, even this thing here, I was making a big deal about trouble, but if it's just the same on the left and right and the same on the top and bottom, we can just do this. We can get rid of 2 of these, and that way it'll do top and bottom, it'll do the TB, and this will do the RL over here. So this is doing top and bottom, right and left, and that's creating our little area down here for the footer. So that looks okay right now. So we're going to take a break, and then we'll come back with part 3, and I guess we'll recolor the links so they're not blue, so we'll use the same red color, and then we'll basically put an image in here. I think we do that here, unless that's part of another exercise. I'll have to double check. We are eventually going to put an image here from one of our shows that you watch. So we'll put something in there. So we'll see you back for part 3 of ex2 CSS using our ex1 folder.